One.
Two. Yes! Behind me on this trailer is a brand new style of rooftop tent that I have never seen before on the market. This is a fusion style rooftop tent. It comes from a company called Roof Space that is based out of Germany, completely engineered in Germany, and this is the Roof Space 2. What is a fusion tent? Well, I'm going to show you guys that in this video today, but essentially it's a hard shell, soft shell rooftop tent. The outer enclosure of this tent, which is extremely hot right now apparently because it's in the sun and it's black, the entire outer shell of this rooftop tent is aluminum and it's a hard shell, so it packs everything up inside of this case that the tent is inside. But once we open this up here in a minute, you'll see that the entire tent is a soft shell style tent, and this case that the tent is packed up in is really the entire platform. Pretty much all hard shell style tents, like the one here on my Wrangler, part of the walls or one of the walls is made up from the case that the tent is stored in. So in this video, we are gonna do a walkthrough of the new Roof Space 2 tent. I'll show you how it works, how it opens. We'll go through the dimensions, the features, and we have some real world feedback, not from myself, but from my friend, the Ginger, over at Epic Adventure Outfitters. Because we took this tent down to Overland Expo in Oregon a few weeks ago, and we let the Ginger sleep in it because he gives us some of the most honest and unfiltered feedback pretty much about everything. But let's first pop it open, show you how it works, and I wanna show you the really cool suspension system that has been engineered as part of this tent. Because if you follow me on Instagram and see some of the reels, you'll see me doing some pull-ups on this tent because it doesn't need to be supported by any ladder system. The way that they've designed this is it's fully self-supporting, which is also a very unique design that I have not seen in any other rooftop tent. So this is a clamshell style tent, but I wouldn't really call it a clamshell because you don't have the top of the clam as part of the tent, but we'll kind of call it a clamshell, but it is a fusion tent. So a clamshell style tent though is gonna have a floorboard that flips all the way open. So they've been able to save some weight and size by not having a cover that goes on top of that, because the cover is the floorboard essentially. So as for size, we're about 52 inches wide and 63 inches front to back. And all closed up with the rails, because the rails are sitting on these crossbars. I'm gonna count the latches as part of this. So we're just about 10 inches in height, but the actual case of this tent without latches and without the rails on the bottom is about 9 inches in total height. And since I don't really have any way to put this on a scale, we're just gonna read right off of Roof Space website for weight, and it's coming in at 147 pounds. The Roof Space 2 is secured by 4 latches. We have 2 on the driver's side, which is gonna allow us to open up the case. And then we can flip it up and open and secure it to what will soon be the floor of the tent. This is done by unbuttoning a little strap that is stored in the lid, then securing it to the side of the tent so it doesn't flop down once we open it up. After that, we're gonna undo the other 2 latches on the passenger side, which is gonna allow the tent to start to pop open. The style of rack you have is definitely going to be something to consider if you're looking at this tent, because you need to have easy access to all 4 of these latches. From there, the tent is going to pop about halfway open, but if your tent is mounted up high or you're shorter, you'll want to secure the strap to the side of it before this so that you can use it to pull it up and over. And then you can take it and secure it to whatever location on your vehicle. You'll need to do one more walk around of the tent and secure all 4 of the corners because they have some bungee straps that need to go underneath the floor and hold down the material. This will keep your tent weather tight, and I'll show you a little bit more of this later in the video. You can store your ladder inside the tent, but it is kind of awkward to get out depending on your mounting location and vehicle type. My preference would be to not store it inside the tent, and that'll give you some more room for your bedding. The ladder is then secured to the side of the floor with a couple of pins, as it is not needed to support the floor of the tent. We'll go over this later in the video and how this system works. Once your ladder is in place, you can then unhook it and drop it down to the appropriate height. Now you can set up all of the optional awnings. There's a vestibule over the entrance, which can be just a shade piece over the top, or you can add the 2 side pieces to it, but you will need to install some awning poles to hold it up. I then went and zipped up the sides of the vestibule so that we close in the space so you guys can get the full look of the roof space when set up and open. These just zip into place and connect to the top panel really easily. And then there are the side awnings, which can optionally be put out, or they can be rolled up if you want to have the window open and just a screen window. The awnings are nice to put up for some ventilation if you think there might be some light rain, or just to have some shade over your window. All right, now that we've got the roof space tent open, let me tell you about how we actually got this up here, because my friend Ryan had to ship me this from California and I live up here in Canada. So as you can imagine, shipping rooftop tents around is not easy. So I've partnered up with UShip. UShip is an awesome company that lets you get partnered up with companies that have room in their trucks or are looking to find more cargo to ship to different places. My friend Ryan hopped on the UShip app, fired in the dimensions and the weight of the roof space tent, put in his address, put in my address, and he was able to get connected up with somebody to ship this up to me. And then UShip is going to give me an estimated cost to ship this to any location that I might want to send it to. So UShip does this by connecting people with extra space in their trucks with people like me that need to ship things around. So you just create a new listing with what it is you want to ship, and then that listing is going to go out to all the registered users that have potential truck space and maybe going in the direction that you need, and they can give you an actual bid and quote to ship your item. So if you're like me and you need some help with the shipping portion, go check out UShip at uship.com. There's a link down in the description below. You can check out this QR code right here. Remember, that's uship.com. Huge thanks to UShip for sponsoring this week's video and helping Ryan and I connect up with the roof space tent so they can do this walk around and review for you guys here in Canada instead of California, because that's a really long drive for me. All right, there you guys go. This is a fusion tent. You can see there is no actual clamshell side that opens up and stands up or anything like that, like you'd see with most clamshell style tents that have the floorboard that flips open to the left like we've done here. The entire case basically is the floorboard, and we just take the end panel off here and snap it in place, and it hangs out underneath the floorboard. So you don't have an entire extra layer of solid material in addition to the flip open floorboard that's sitting up here. So that gives you a couple things. One, you get a nice window on this side so you can see out both on the right side and the entrance side, and it's going to save some weight as well. So Roof Space has thought about the poor weather as much as the good weather like we're having right now, because I'm completely melting in the sun. And they've designed the entire outer shell with a polyester ripstop material that has a 3,000 millimeter water column rating. So this should be good in pretty much any poor weather that you encounter. But I hope you guys get lots of cool sun like we're having today. It's not actually cool, it's pretty hot. There's a really cool suspension feature that I want to show you, which basically allows this to hold out the other floorboard here without a ladder. So you can also set up the tent, which I'll show you later in the video, because it kind of involves some disassembly of the front piece, and I want to show you guys the whole tent before we do that. But they have what's called a panorama mode, which is really kind of cool if you want to just take this to the beach and hang out, but because this has an 800-pound load rating on the platform that kicks out, you can effectively stand on this. And here's a clip of us doing some pull-ups down at Overland Expo, or trying to do some pull-ups over at Overland Expo, hanging on here, because you can detach this ladder and it still has that 800-pound weight rating. On both sides of the roof space tent, we have these awning windows, and underneath them we have a mesh screen that's going to keep out all of the bugs. Now the awning is the window if you want to close this up. So you do have to take down the awning pole in order to zip this up and close it up. So you can have this open in probably some light rain, but if you got some rain and some wind coming sideways, you're going to want to pull that pole down and zip that closed. So this doesn't zip all the way closed. You can see the zippers for this outer panel come to right here, and it leaves a bit of a gap for some airflow to get up and underneath. Now the zippers for the screen obviously come all the way closed because you don't want bugs getting in. And in talking to the two designers and founders of Roof Space, they designed this to have airflow to minimize any condensation in this tent. So there's also a vent way up here above, let me get the camera, up above the window and awning that also allows for airflow. You can't close that vent. It's always open, but it's not going to let any rain in because it completely covers the vent with its little awning over top of it. But they designed the tent to have like a circulation effect. And that's one of the greatest ways to reduce condensation inside a tent, is having airflow, but also the circulation of airflow to keep that moist air moving and hopefully out of the tent. So I set this up with the exterior vestibule over the entrance. This is a optional setup, unlike some tents where you need to set this up, otherwise it's just hitting you in the back when you climb in. This is really nice for when it is raining because you can climb up the ladder and into the tent, and you have a bit of a dry spot to get your jacket off, kick your boots off before you hop into the tent, and you don't have anything coming down on you. This is zippered along the top seam here, so you don't have to have this set up. You can unzip it and you can roll off the side panels. There's a couple little tie loops here on each side, and you can stow the top up at the top with the tie loops as well. And if it's a really nice day, you don't have to bother setting this up and you can climb right into the tent. I left the awning down on this side so you guys can get an idea of kind of what that looks like. But if you don't zip it up, it's just gonna flap in the wind, but you can zip up the 2 zippers from the inside. So the other design feature I want to talk about is just sort of the skirt. This keeps the water out by having a skirt that goes over the edge of the platform here. So if you didn't have this, water would collect and basically come inside the tent. So you take this little bungee here. It's probably better to do this before you put the tie down on, which we'll talk about that in a second, and pull this over. You want to make sure that's tight enough so that any water that might get up there is going to roll off. So do that before you put this on. And then this is the other piece as part of the engineering that you have to do to keep the platform down, because you'll see on the inside when we get there with the suspension setup, it has enough tension to kind of keep pulling the lower platform up. So they have this strap here and it connects with these marine grade connectors, which don't rip them off. You have to pull the little piece off for it to release. You don't want to just yank on it. It's not a snap. So these aren't going to come off accidentally, but you tie this off to something on your vehicle, or in this case, one of the spokes on the trailer, and then you cinch it down right here. And that is going to put some tension on that and hold that platform down. And so it's not always kind of popping up, especially when you don't have anything in the tent. So the other thing I want to point out is they've done a really good job with all of the zippers. So they put all these nice pulls on here, make them super easy to use, especially these zippers here on the outside. So if you're setting up the vestibule, where is it? Right here. They've got the pulls on here. This is really easy to do, these nice big zipper pulls and zippers themselves, and really easy to get this set up, and you're not getting any material snagging. But however, you still got to do it with 2 hands because you got to put a little bit of tension on the end of it to do that zipper up. Coming up to the entrance area of the tent, this has a side opening door. So the zipper is going around the right side, the top and the bottom, and I've just tied this off. Now they use really large ties, which a lot of companies use these little tiny loops. It's still a little hard to do with one hand, but I can do it. A lot of companies use these little tiny loops for these to go in, and you're always trying to fidget and jam them in. Roof Space has not. They've left plenty of room, like you can see right here, to do that and undo that tie. But the door opens sideways. So we've got a little bit of a seam seal here over top of the lower zipper, but you can come up here and you can grab the, once again, nice pull and big fat zipper, and you can easily just close the door all the way around. So the material isn't falling into the tent when you get into it. Even if it has some water on it, you can roll it up off to the side. You're not crawling in over a wet door. And as well, it's not, you don't have to tie it off. Like a lot of, you know, tents that have them that open and are secured on the top, you have to pull them up. Otherwise you get a wet tent hitting you in the back as you climb in. So we can easily just open and close this, sort of like a door. It's a big D, and we can pull it off to the side and stow it. But if you've set up the vestibule, it's probably not going to get a whole lot of rain on it anyways. All right, let's pop inside the Roof Space 2. So just looking from head to toe here. Now the Roof Space has designed this without a mattress that comes all the way to the front. You have about, let's say 11 inches or so of floorboard or floor space here, which you could put your boots down on if you don't want to use a shoe bag, or you could put your bag on here. Or when we switch this to the panorama setup, we can stand on this. This is some crazy lighting on my face right here. But you can actually stand on this. You don't have to stand on your mattress and get it all gummed up. We've got a 2.5 inch thick mattress pad. It's a single density foam Doesn't feel like memory foam, just feels like foam. I'm 6'2", so there's plenty of room to sleep in here. The mattress looks to be 79 inches, almost 80 inches in length, so that's plenty for someone who's taller. And we're at 52 inches in width. So there's room for 2 adults in here. A little cozy, but there's room for sure. Because we don't have a hard clamshell on this side, we've got a skylight here, which we can open up. And now, there we go. We got tons of lighting in here. So this also has some tie-offs, so we can quickly roll this up. Now, this is a clear plastic roof. It's not a vent, so we're not going to get any fresh air in from this. Although I really wish it opened right now because it is absolutely cooking inside here. This would actually be a great opportunity to bring in my Ecoflow Wave 2 portable air conditioning system, which is also super handy for camping in really hot weather like today. And I do believe actually Ecoflow has their Prime Day sales on right now. So I'll put some links down to their Prime Day sales. A great chance to pick up portable power stations as well as their Wave 2 portable AC unit. I've been using it to cool my 400 square foot office down in my house actually, and it's done actually a really good job. So I imagine it would do a good job in a rooftop tent like this. So we also have another window here on the back, which is going to give us even more light. Look at that. But once again, we have a plastic window, so this isn't a screen or anything, so you can't get more airflow. Basically, you're limited to the, well, open this one on the side, and you can open this one on this side here, and then you can leave this open, and those all have screens. Hi, Maddie.
Hi.
What do you think of the new rooftop tent?
Bigger.
It's bigger.
Also, it looks like it's got a croissant on the side.
A croissant?
A croissant.
That's an interesting observation.
Gretchen,
Yeah, the logo, yeah.
Back me up. It looks like a croissant.
When you point it out, it's, yeah.
So with this window here, once again, we've got some ties that we can tie this off with. So if you had a regular clamshell style tent, this would normally just be a big wall and wouldn't get any light in from it. So I guess we don't get any airflow, but at least we get some light. We've got the suspension system that, I'll talk about this here in a second, but because of the suspension system, we've got a gap. We've got a gap between the mattress and the outside edge of the tent all the way around. We've actually got another few inches here at the head of the mattress, and same with around the side. We do have some pockets that they've sewn onto the side of the tent, so you can store your phone and some stuff in there. So I'm just in here just cooking. I'm going to open up this other window and just show you how that opens up, because you don't have to use it as an awning. So we can open the screen up, and we can tie the screen off at the top. But if you don't want to grab the awning poles and put this out, you can actually just roll this up. You can grab these ties, you can roll this window up, and there's a loop on the outside, and do the screen back up. Now, this is one of my pet peeves with all rooftop tents that put the screen on the inside. And I'm not sure how to solve this with this design of tent, but I really don't like having to open my screen up to close and open the exterior window. Because if you're in an area with bugs, now bugs can come in the tent when you open that screen, and at night you probably have a light inside your tent, and that's going to attract them in. So I usually like to see the screens on the outside of the window panels. In these designs where you're using the actual window panel as an alternate awning, you don't really have a choice. There's no great way to solve that problem. There is an improvement we could make to this door though, and I'm pretty sure the designers and the guys at Roof Space are going to watch this video. Guys, build the screen into the door, so that when you want to come in, you just have to open one panel. And if you want to open the window, you can just drop down a solid panel and the screen is right there, part of the door. So when you're coming in and out, it's only one zipper every time. And as well, that way you don't have to open your screen to close your main door when the screen and door are all part of one piece, and the mesh is on the outside and the solid panel is behind it. That would be an improvement. So let me show you this crazy suspension system in here, because that is what's holding this, I don't know if you call it a cantilever, but it's holding this floor panel up, which doesn't require the ladder at all to support it. So we've got this internal strut system. So we've got a center bar that runs up and across, and it holds the top of the tent up. And then we've got two more that go up at a 45-degree angle. Now in here, you can see there is a line here that's like under tension. So that is effectively turning this into like a suspension bridge. It's anchored here at the head and goes up across these support struts, and then anchors down on the side that needs to hold it up. So I guess through science and engineering, that transfers that load all the way through those struts and over here. And that gives you 800 pounds of weight that you can put on this without any ladder at all, which allowed us to do pull-ups. And I'll show you guys here in a second, panorama mode, because we can actually pull back these panels and open this right up, and we can stand here and hang out. Next to the strut system here and the suspension system, we've got these gas struts. There's one on this side and one on this side. And those gas struts are to help you with opening and closing. They say it's only requires 6 pounds of actual force from you when you're opening and closing this, due to the way that those gas struts help you pull all of this back up over and close it, which we'll get to closing it here in a second. Now, another question I know I'm going to get asked, and I want to mention this, is can you store your bedding in here, and what about the ladder? The way that they've built the container or the shell that all of this packs up into, there is additional room. It's not like the mattresses are completely tight right to the top and the bottom. So you do have some room to put some bedding in here and close this up. I don't think you'd be able to close it up with maybe an additional air mattress, but if you had some nice down bedding that can compress really well, you could load it into one side and then close this up, and over top of that, and the mattress is gonna have room to bulge inside the container that this is all stored in. However, I do find that storing the ladder in here makes it difficult to get the ladder out, because unless you have a way to climb up and into the tent, I mean, I guess you could do a pull up and pull yourself into the tent, but that's kind of awkward. It is easier to take the ladder out and store it outside, which would give you some more room to store your bedding in here. As I slowly melt away here, let's convert this to panorama mode, which is going to be kind of like the hangout mode. You want to bring this to the beach and just park it over the view and hang out. It's kind of got an option where you can open this thing right up. So right here on the sides, we've got some additional zippers. First, we're going to take down the vestibule, because we don't want that getting all in the way as we pull this down. So now, we can actually, I don't know if I want to stand on this. So we need some handles, roof space. We need to add some handles. There we go. Now we can stand outside the tent, and because this has 800 pounds of capacity, we can stand right here on the outside and hang outside, or you know what they call panorama mode. You're sitting back here, you've got a wide open view of, well, in this case, my garden, but tons of fresh air, and you could kind of chill in the shade a little bit. You could lean sideways here and hang out, but you've got this huge open side of it now, lots of airflow. If you're at the beach, you want to hang out at the beach, got a nice comfortable place to sit. One zipper and you can open this right up into panorama mode, which I don't think I've ever seen a rooftop tent that has that feature. All right, so we're gonna call the Ginger real quick and get his thoughts, because he's spent a few nights in this tent. We're just working our way through the roof space too. As you can see, I'm sitting in it right now. And since you're the only person that I know, well, I guess I could call Mike because he's got one too, but since you're someone I know who's spent a couple of nights in this rooftop tent, maybe you could give us 2 or 3 pros and cons and what you think in...
I spent 3 nights at the expo in it. Each night I came back, I wasn't fully sober, but I still managed to get into the tent. Pros, it is a beautiful design, that's for sure. You could tell it was like not designed locally. So when it's opened, if I was ever just sitting on the outstretched folded part, I never felt like it was ever going to give out. I like that the mattress doesn't move because it's kind of integrated, but I didn't know that, so I spent 3 nights trying to push it all the way to the front. Con being having to put the window awnings down in order to basically get darkness or keep looky-loos out so you don't put on a show.
So something I found out, you can actually just roll those awnings up. You don't have to put the awning poles up. You can just roll. Actually, I've got it up right now. You can just roll it up. I figured this out. There's a roll up for it.
Oh, perfect.
So
I would never set the pole up. I like how the door works. Love how tight it is closed. Like how nice it is closed up on the tent. And then I did some research when I got home, and I was blown away that only weighs 147 pounds. The mattress wasn't bad. It could use a topper for a guy my weight, but that's every tent for the most part needs a little bit more.
Yeah.
But to be that thin on top of a roof, you don't have a lot of options. But at least they store the ladder inside, so that's a bonus.
It's nice to see like a bit of a innovation in this rooftop tent space.
Changed, and they all don't look the same coming from same factory. Yeah. No, I like it. I would recommend it to people. Mike at the shop is interested in it because he'd like a hard shell tent, but he likes the fold out so you get more room for him and his wife.
Everybody I've talked to that has a soft shell, that you have to put the cover on the tent to get this style of tent, absolutely hates that. So that kind of gives you the...
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. I like how you can open the skylight above you to get like so much light inside the tent during the day.
The two of them right here, yeah.
I would like more windows, like screen windows.
Okay, man. Well, I'll let you get back to your pool. Thanks for a few minutes here on the video review. Talk to you later. So as we pack up the Roof Space 2 tent, let's talk about some of the pros and cons. So the first thing is this tent is really well built. The engineering is unlike any tent I've ever seen, and the design is completely new to the market. All of the materials feel very premium, as well as all the work on the metal of the case and all the seals and latches and zippers. All are of very high quality in my opinion. This is definitely a well-engineered and well-made tent. The founders were telling me that they have several points of inspection as well as photos that need to be made on every single tent so that they're all within the specifications that they've provided for the manufacturing facility. So that leads me to believe their quality control is quite high. And it really does show. The tent is very light for what it brings to the table at 147 pounds. As well as it's very compact. It's low profile, it's got a small footprint, and it's built to fit on anything from a Subaru or an SUV to a trailer like we have here, or you could put it on the roof of your Jeep. The design is really unique, and it's really awesome to see companies taking a new take on rooftop tent designs and styles, rather than just ordering up some Chinese catalog tent and making a few tweaks and color changes to the material to make it their own. That is definitely not the case with the Roof Space 2. It has been designed from the ground up by German engineers, and the Roof Space 1 was fully manufactured in Germany. The tent is made in China now, but that was the only way they could get the price down and as well ramp up manufacturing for the global market. But as it was explained to me, every single tent has various measurements as well as photographs that have to be taken and provided back to Roof Space to certify that it meets their specifications and is within their own thresholds. And what I forgot to show you guys in the actual video is that every single Roof Space tent has a individualized serial number and plaque inside it. So all of those photos and specifications that are recorded at the time of manufacturing are linked to your individualized serial number in your Roof Space 2 tent. So hopefully that makes sense. Back to the video. And the founders travel back and forth to the manufacturing facility and have provided them with certain equipment and guidelines for the manufacturing process. So it's much different than I've seen on many other rooftop tents that have just adopted a style out of a Chinese manufacturer and made it their own through a few tweaks. I really like this tent, and I think it's a very interesting entry into the rooftop tent market. It's going to be a huge standout to a certain demographic of overlanders or campers. But there are some setbacks and cons to the style of tent, which I'll go over. As you watch me pack this up and put it away, you can probably see this is the first con. The pack up and deployment process are much more significant than, say, a wedge style tent. A wedge style tent generally is my go-to style of tent because it is super quick to deploy, especially when I get into camp late at night and I want to leave first thing in the morning in the cold, in the wet, in the dark. And I just really don't want to be walking around my vehicle 6 or 7 times to pack up my tent and make sure nothing is hanging out the sides. My vehicles are also very tall, so this compounds this issue even more. But there's a huge demographic of people that might be interested in this tent where none of that is an issue for you. In addition to having to go around and pack up all the material and make sure that it is stowed away tightly, I also don't like having to do up 4 latches on the tent. This just means more climbing up and down as part of my pack up process. However, this is much more simple if you have a vehicle where you don't have to climb up on anything to access the latches or any of the material hanging out the sides. I would also like to see some sort of latch system that is on the sides of the tent and not underneath the tent, because this does get in the way of many different racks out there that I've seen. So if you're looking at this, definitely take a look at the rack that you're thinking about and see if any parts of the rack are going to get in the way of accessing these latches that are underneath. As you can see me climbing on here, I've got to go up and over the awning on the trailer, and then I've got to stick my hand underneath to be able to get access to those latches. And on the driver's side, we've got to go through the cutout holes in the side of the rack to be able to access those. This problem is going to be circumstantial based on the rack that you have, so this may work well for you or may not be great for you. Just really depends. The pack-up process also includes a lot of steps. So if you're looking for a fast to deploy and fast to pack up tent, this is definitely not going to fall into that category. But there are a lot of features and benefits to this tent if you really don't mind the pack-up and deployment process. Especially if you're going to be going somewhere and setting up camp for 2 or 3 or 4 days, it's totally worth setting this up and having all of the advantages that it gives you, since you're not having to pack up every morning. There's also probably a lot of people out there that aren't as lazy as me and don't need such a simple tent to pack up, and that's fine too. Other than that, I'm really struggling to find many things wrong with this tent. It is extremely well engineered, extremely well built. All of the materials are really top quality. You can store your bedding in it. It's got different modes that you can deploy. I think the only other criticism I might give to it is that it doesn't have a pass-through for a heater or air conditioner pipe. So up here in Canada, where it gets really cold in the winter and a lot of condensation with our 100% humidity on the west coast, I would like to be able to run a diesel heater into this, and there's really no pass-through for that, but that's a pretty minor gripe, and a lot of tents still haven't adopted that yet either. So the Roof Space 2 is now coming to North America. I mentioned before there was a Roof Space 1, which was their initial launch model. It was only available in Europe and Germany, but now with the Roof Space 2, it is a global launch. And they're actually launching this through a crowdsourcing launch with a bunch of promotions. So if you guys want to check out that and find out about that pricing and all the promotions, I'm going to leave you guys some links down in the description and pinned comment, and you can check it out for yourself and find out all about their promotional launch pricing, which if you're watching this video in July, I wouldn't wait too long if you're considering one of these, because it only runs to the end of the month, and then it's going to be launched at full retail pricing. If there's anything you want to know about the Roof Space 2 that maybe I didn't cover in this video, leave your questions down in the comments below. I'll go through them and do my best to answer them. As well, Ryan from Roof Space is going to be keeping an eye on the questions and making sure you guys get all the answers you need if this is a tent that you think might be good for you. If you like this kind of video, I'm going to put a couple suggestions you might want to check out on the screen now. I upload new videos all the time, and we're reviewing all kinds of camping and off-road gear and parts and doing mods with my Jeeps and going on adventures. So I really appreciate it if you want to hit that subscribe button. My name is Casey. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.